If you are a fan of softball, you are going to love the Fastpitch TV show. From softballjunk.com, we're bringing you more softball than anyone on the planet. Sit back and get ready. Here's the Fastpitch TV show.
Hello, I'm Gary Leland, your host, and this is the Fastpitch TV show. Make sure to take a look at all my videos and blogs and all my softball information at my website, fastpitch.tv. Now, in today's show, I have a great session from former Olympian and current pro player Natasha Watley. Natasha's session is titled Becoming a Champion. But before that starts, let's watch this short video about my softball magazine, which you can find at fastpitchmagazine.com.
Oops, sorry, I was reading this month's issue of the Fastpitch magazine. What? You're not familiar with the Fastpitch magazine? Watch this. You are going to love it. Looks great, right? Want to find more about the #1 coaching tool on the internet? Go to fastpitchmagazine.com today.
Good morning, everybody. This is like a good turnout for the first thing in the morning, so I appreciate you guys all coming out. But yes, actually, if you guys, can you guys see over there in the corner? If you can see, I just want to make sure everyone can see. But I'm using this quite a bit. But yes, I came from Marshall last night, so I got in 2 in the morning, but I'm here. I love what I do. I love talking about softball. So this is a little bit different than anything I've ever talked about before. So being able to put this together and trying to compile and kind of reflect on, coaches that I've had and things that had put me, and given me that catapult to be able to be a championship player. It was kind of fun having to reflect. But I want this little session to be very interactive. I'm going to go through and I'll try to save a little bit of time at the end for questions and answers. But, I'm going to have, a couple of questions that I throw out there, so feel free to participate as we go through. And if at any moment you need to stop and ask a question, please feel free. But pretty much, I'm talking about becoming a champion. And in this, I am solely coming from the outlook of an athlete. So I know most of you guys are all coaches, but so how you get your player to do that, I'm just kidding. But just making, I'm kidding. But I'm going to go through and talk about some of the coaches that I've had and some of the things that have stuck in my mind and some of the things that I still use to this day and just different little things. And these are all, of course, my opinion and my perspective, and obviously there's so many different ways to be a champion. So I begin. First thing is just in the ingredients of a winner. When we talk about being a winner, these are things that before I even attended college, these are all things that I looked back and unknowingly they had happened. And I think, if you talk to any, world-class athlete or anybody, that there's things that happen prior to them becoming a champion, and that would be a winner. The first thing is a support system. I have the greatest parents in the world, and I started playing when I was 5. I had this flyer brought to me by this girl in 1st grade, and I have no idea who this girl is to this day. If I actually knew where she lived, I would thank her, because I had no idea what this journey of softball would bring. We brought this flyer home to my parents, said, hey, Mom, Dad, I want to play softball. And of course, my dad, he looked at me side-eyed, okay, what is softball? He's from Louisiana, had no idea what the sport of softball was. Huge basketball fan, wanted me to play basketball, but of course, me being only child, I got what I wanted, and I got to play softball, and thank you. I'm so glad that they made the decision that I could play. But it was great because my parents immediately became my biggest supporters, and my dad started to learn softball. He became my first rec ball coach, and my mom was my team manager. So it was kind of something, that I had a family unit right behind me right from the very start. So I had a support system. And immediately I fell in love with the game. Obviously, I loved everything about it. I loved all the skills that it possessed. I loved that you could be a good hitter, a good pitcher, a good runner. There was something that everybody could bring and you could add to your team's element. And I love that. And I love that there were so many different skills that you could perfect. And I'm still trying to perfect them as I'm getting older, and I'm still playing. So I don't feel like that passion has ever gone away or will go away. But just one of those natural things that I instantly fell in love with the game. The third thing is just having a vision. With this vision, I feel like my dad, he did a great job in terms of helping me create that vision. You know, when I was in junior high, he would take me to high school games. When I was in high school, I grew up in Southern California, so I would go to local colleges around the area and watch collegiate games. And it was just always being able to create that vision of what that next level looked like. And I think it's just so important as coaches, that whether you're high school or collegiate, you know, just always be able to show your players that next level and what that next level looks like, because then as a player, you're able to create that vision. And I think that's exactly what my father did, and especially too when in 1996 when the Olympic team, 1996 first year softball was in the Olympics, when that first team went on their Olympic tour, that's when I first saw my vision, and I knew exactly that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to wear USA across my chest, and I just think it's just so important that you show your players the next level up and what it looks like, whether it's, you know, someone actually fielding, hitting, just so that you could get a visual. If you don't have a vision, it's hard to get anywhere if you don't have anywhere to try to reach. And the fourth thing is the willingness to make sacrifices, and we know as coaches and as athletes, and if anything, there's anything that you're passionate about, you all know that you're going to have to make sacrifices. And to this day, I'm still making sacrifices. I live in Japan 6 months out of the year. I'm missing, you know, best friends' weddings and babies and being born, and you know, there's, you know, you guys get it. And growing up, there was the same things that I had to make sacrifices for, missing prom or missing some high school dances and things like that. So these are all ingredients of a winner. But we want to talk about becoming a champion, and not that there's anything wrong with being a winner, but I want to know what your guys' perspective is on the difference between being a winner and a champion. And feel free to throw anything out, please. Differences between a winner and a champion. Anything? I'm making you guys think real early. Confidence. Confidence. Difference between being a winner and a champion. Who would have more confidence? Okay. True dedication. So who would have more, and not that necessarily one has more dedication, but you're just saying the sacrifices. So one is weighted. What would be weighted more? The champion or the winner? All right, well, I'll give you my definition. So I looked up the definition, the actual definition. The actual definition of a winner is a thing that is a success or is likely to be successful. Some other qualities as all the right things, but not necessarily remembered. So this is one of the things that I talk about when I'm talking to young girls. Is just, you know, when you're trying to create your masterpiece every single day, it's what is it that you're doing? What is it that you're doing different to set yourself apart? And when we talk about a winner and a champion, there's nothing wrong like being the winner. Obviously, like when I talked about the ingredients of a winner, you know, those were some things that put me ahead, that just got me into the door. I was able to go to college, get a scholarship, play at the highest level, but that didn't necessarily make me a champion. In my eyes, I feel that a champion is the ultimate. That's, as an athlete, that's what you're looking for every single day. A person who has defeated or surpassed all rivals in competition. So at the end of the day, you're the last man standing. You're the one that can look yourself in the mirror and know that you're the champion and you have defeated all. And a champion is long-lasting and recognized. Okay, so most time once you're a champion, you go in the history books, you go down and you're remembered, and you're successful. So one thing that I like that puts it all for me, the difference between a winner and a champion. A winner dreams the possible. They dream, you know, the things that are probably the most attainable, probably the most could be more of a reality than anything. But a champion to me is someone who dreams the impossible, who tries to reach the untangible, who tries to go out of their comfort zones to try to reach that next level. And to me, that's a champion. To me, that's the ultimate. And that I think that if you talk to any world-class athlete or any athlete, that they want to be reach that unattainable. So when we're talking about a championship culture, I just think that there's two components, and we all want to reach, when we're talking about that championship culture, that's that reaching that unattainable and that unimaginable. And I think when you have a championship culture, you have to have two components. You have to have that individual component, and especially in our sport, softball, you have to have that team component. So, I've been on some really great teams with some great talent and wasn't able to push through at the end, wasn't able to close the door, wasn't able to close the deal, but we had great teams, But also been on great teams where we just didn't have everybody matched up or lined up. Not everybody was on the same page, so we weren't able to go to that next level. So I think it's got to be the right blend of your individual components. Me as an individual athlete, I have to do every single day to make sure that I'm reaching my goals, individually, getting to where I want to be. And as a team, I have to match those goals as well. We have to all kind of blend to kind of come together. So I'm going to go through each of these, but just for an individual component, I talk about pushing your limits individually. From every athlete, it's different for everybody. Whether you're the strongest girl on the team, the weakest girl on the team, the tallest, whatever. Everybody has their personal limits that they have to push. Second thing, and these are all my opinions, so not that these are the right ingredients, but I think the second thing for your individual component would be reinventing yourself. Reinvention, from year in and year out, you're reinventing yourself. Adaptability, for an individual component, being able to adapt to all different types of situations. For the team component, I talk about identity as a unit, as a team. For the second, underneath team component, being able to have leadership and roles. And the last one, commitment and trust. So for pushing individual limits, and I have like in the little, just for if you guys are taking notes, IC is for individual components. So as we go through the slides, so you don't lose where we are, but just for your individual components as an individual athlete, I feel that everybody should be pushing individual limits. It can vary between individuals, their potentials to reach. And my example is in college. I went to UCLA, and I played under Sue Enquist, Lisa Fernandez, Kelly Inouye, and Gina Vecchione. And I will never forget this day, and it's one of those moments that it was a aha moment that we were doing conditioning, and we just were having to partner up with someone who is similar in speed. And we were just going through practice, doing sprints, and Lisa Fernandez used to run our practice. So if any of you guys have any idea what Lisa Fernandez's personality is like, then you don't want to play with her. She is hard on you, and she will let you know. And one day we were on the line just doing sprints, but I'm fast, I'm a slapper, that's my game, I'm fast, and I was winning. I was beating everybody, and I was beating, the person I was partnered up with, and she's Watley. She always just Watley. Yes. You're not even breaking a sweat. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm coming in first every single time. Like, this is what you guys recruited me to do. I'm fast, I'm an athlete. This is what you want. I'm beating her, But you're not even breaking a sweat. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Well, you're not even breaking a sweat, Tosh. And I'm like, okay. And it kind of put everything in perspective. It's like, even though you're winning these races and they're effortless for you, we all have our individual potential to reach. So for you, just winning the race isn't going to be enough. Yes, that's your forte, that's your strength, But, it's not just your weaknesses that you have to push your limits, it's your strengths too that you have to push your limits too. So that's kind of an element too. Like all of my strengths, I try to make them stronger. Obviously, weaknesses are things that we focus on, but pushing your limits and your strengths, I think, is something that most athletes, it's hard to do because you know that you can always rely on it. If I'm Monica Abbott and I know that my rise ball is going to ultimately strike out everybody, it's still something that she's got to push herself in every single day and trying to perfect it. And I think just, being able to kind of go back on that and reflect on that, that's something that will always, stick out in my head is that, you have your we all have our individual limits. The next thing is reinvention. Changing, so the actual definition of reinvention was changing so that it appears that it's entirely new. And if we talk about, as you go up the ranks, you've always got to reinvent yourself because, especially when you're playing college in 4 years, you're going to be playing most of the same team. I played in the Pac-10 conference. Every single year we're playing the same teams. So every single year it was trying to go back and figure out ways that I can reinvent myself, As athletes, it's trying to make sure that you stay sharp and that you're not losing those strengths and you're still gaining other tools. And I think that's one of the biggest things as I go through my career. I'm continuing to reinvent myself. I'm predominantly, I was recruited out of high school as a slap hitter. That's all I did in high school. All I did was slap. Put the ball in play, bunt, slap, never hit for power. And that's one thing, by the time I finished my career at UCLA, I was hitting home runs. I think, I don't know my actual stats, but I probably should. But my senior year, I finished with maybe 10 or 11 home runs, whereas my first year, I only had 1 home run. Just things like that, just trying to constantly change yourself. And if anybody would see me now playing in Japan, you would be like, what are you doing? I don't even slap when I'm playing in Japan now because I've had to reinvent myself because the Japanese players, they're on top of their game and they're constantly studying you and reinventing themselves to adapt to you as a player. So you always have to, stay on your toes in terms of reinventing yourself. If I'm predominantly a curveball pitcher, I want to try to develop another pitch, so that I'm constantly reinventing myself. Another thing is adaptability. Adaptability is probably one of the hardest things as an athlete, just to try to, as you go up in levels, because you're always facing bigger, better competition as you go up in levels. And a big thing to me is resilience, being able to recover quickly from difficulties, challenges, and toughness. And to me, that's a hard thing as an athlete. When you're young and you're faced with failure, that's the hardest thing. Is trying to day in and day out, trying to get over that and be able to recover quickly. The language that maintains control in the head. I mean, even, I'm 31 years old. I've been playing for 26 years. I still, those doubts will always come into your head, and how you're able to suppress them. It's just something that you'll never perfect. And actually, I wanted to share this book that I'm actually reading. I'm in the middle of it, and I wanted to share it with you because it talks about the 7 secrets of world-class athletes, and it talks about kind of your self-talk a little bit. It talks about how things, it's really talks about the mental part, and some of the terms are kind of over my head, but I really like how they describe things that pass through your head, how you can suppress them, and how you're supposed to try. They talk about, it's by Buddy Biancalana. He was a shortstop for the Kansas City Royals, and Steve Yellen, he was a tennis champion. But they talk about things that pass through your prefrontal cortex, and things that when you're learning a new activity, things stay in there for longer. So if I'm learning how to throw, I'm learning how to hit, everything will stay in your prefrontal cortex. But as it becomes second nature to you, things stay in there minimal time. So anything that passes through there is supposed to make you be a more fluid athlete. It's supposed to give you more fluidity. And it just talks about things that you should say to yourself, little athletes that are here. But it's a good little read, and it talks about kind of this being able to, as elite athletes, they talk about Pujols, how he's able to make a decision at the last minute, and how Roger Federer is able to make decisions at the last minute. And as athletes, you want to be able to make nice decisions and wait as long as possible. And I think it's true. I don't know which pitcher's going to throw me. So I may have to wait until the last minute until I see it. And being able to make those decisions in pressure situations. So it's a good read. If you guys want to read it, I'll have it up here at the end so you can write it down and stuff. Also, too, just having a short-term memory, just being able to get over things quick. I can remember Coach Candrea, who was our coach in 2004 and 2008 for the Olympic team. And I have one game in 2001, our World Championships, and I was at short, and I was having one of those days, where the ball finds you. And I swear to God, I probably had 5 ground balls, 5 errors in one game, back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And we're in the semifinal game, trying to get ready to for the championship game the next day. But ended up winning the game, but I had 5 million errors. I mean, I was embarrassed. It was my first year on the national team. I'm playing with Lisa Fernandez, who's been my hero. I'm playing with Nora Berg, Leo Brian Amico, and I'm just surprised that I'm even starting at shortstop. I'm playing shortstop and I have like paddle hands, nothing is happening. I swear to God that I will never forget that day. But I remember Coach Drake, he pulled me aside and he said, you know what, Tosh, I'm putting you back there tomorrow. And I'm like, why? Did you not see what I just saw? And he said, no, I'm putting you back out there and you're gonna have to learn to recover quickly, because this is going to happen if we're in the little big games in the air. I'm gonna have to put you back out there. I feel like you have the skills that it possesses, but you're going to have to recover quickly. And it's just, I kept hearing him, recover quickly, I'm putting you back in there. Sure enough, next day, get back in there, probably had one of the best games of my entire career. And we ended up winning the World Championships that year in 2001. And we were in Canada, ended up being MVP of the tournament. But it's just one of those things, just being able to, the next day you're gonna have to show back up. And it's one of those things where I still hear him, I have those days where, things just aren't working right. And you're gonna have to find that place and go to that place where you can kind of have a short-term memory and not remember what happened before. Just definitely talk about adaptability. Just being able to prepare for things that you can't control. Things that I'm sure as coaches that you go over all the time, but just injuries, being able to come back from injuries, because that's very hard on your psyche. Bad calls, when I was in college, academics, just a lot of outside distractions that, happen as an athlete and as a person. Those are things that you all have to get over. So that's one thing that I like to talk about is adaptability, being able to always adapt to every single situation. So now I'm moving into the team component. So these are some things that I feel, on some of the teams that I've been, that these were the components that that the championship teams that I was on that we possessed. And the biggest thing is identity as a unit. You just need more than talent. So I always like to talk about my college career. My college career, 3 out of the 4 years we were in the championship game. So my junior year was the only year that we were not in the championship game. And that year we probably had the best lineup. That's probably the best collegiate team that I was on my 4 years while I was at UCLA. We had Stacey Newman, Courtney Dale, Amanda Freed, Tria Flowers. Just our lineup was stacked from top to bottom. There's no reason that we should have even lost a game that season. But actually it turned out to be the worst season that I had while I was at UCLA. And it just turns out to be that I feel like that year we played as individuals. We just relied on our talent. And we just thought at the end of the day that was just gonna push us through, because we had the lineup, we had the pitching, we had the staff, we had the defenders, we had everything. That team was sick. So we just lacked, but the thing that I look back and I think about is we lacked the team identity. We didn't really have a place that we could go to as a team where we would connect as one, We didn't really have a key phrase or anything that we talked about. So that's something I encourage teams now is, it may seem, kind of corny, especially for females. We like to have those corny phrases, but they're words that you can yell and say, and they can keep you on track every single day. And in 2003, that was going to be we were going to be the first class to go through UCLA. My senior class in 2003 was my senior year. Sorry. So we were going to be the first class to go through UCLA without winning a national championship. So just imagine all that pressure that was thrown on us. We've been on phenomenal teams, but we weren't able to pull the trigger. We weren't able to close the door at the end. We were in the championship game my freshman, my sophomore year. Obviously, I said that junior year was bad, but we weren't able to close the trigger. So we needed something at that point of having that pressure on our backs of something that was going to click for us. And that year we had a team theme, and it was called WIF. And the theme was whatever it takes. That was our thing that year. But I kid you not, when we were in the weight room and there was mornings that we did not want to be there, that was all someone had to do was yell it out and lift. And it was a joke. We were like, we don't care how we win. We want to win so bad. If it just deflects off the girl's glove and it rolls into the dugout, and that's how we win, then that's how we're going to win. We don't need a big hit. We don't need a big strikeout. We don't need anything. Like, it does not matter, whatever it takes. So that was our theme that entire year. And I feel like we connected as a team. We bonded as a team, and that was something that we were able to, if we ever got off track, we would yell that, and we would get right back on track. So I encourage, coaches that you create themes or, whatever. If something happened the previous season. Last night at Marshall, they have a good, Coach Stanton comes in, I hope she shares what their theme was, because they were just this close away from getting to postseason last season, and they haven't been able to go to postseason in their 20 years of existing as a program. So I just think that having those key phrases that everybody can identify with, I think are so key. And then also too, in 2004, we had our theme of dominate. And that's all we wanted to do, is we wanted to dominate. And if anybody watched the 2004 Olympics in Athens, Greece, that's exactly what we did. We dominated. So from our training, we were dominating. We just overtrained. We just outplayed everybody. We outscored our opponents, I think, till 52-1. I think we allowed one run that Olympics. And our goal was to dominate, and everything that we did aligned up with that goal. So I think it's so important as a team that every team has an identity or a phrase or a motto, that's something that everybody can identify with. The next thing is, I think every team needs to have leadership, no matter what. I mean, I know a lot of times it's hard for coaches to pick a captain or whatnot, and sometimes even if you don't pick a captain, we never really had captains at UCLA. Coach Enquist always wanted the leader to always naturally reveal themselves. And I think that's a great way to go, because naturally someone's going to want it more on the team, or want to be able to hold everybody accountable. And I think some great leadership qualities is someone who is able to hold others accountable and lead by example and communicate well. And I think that's something that I didn't learn until my senior year. I was always that player that was just, that silent person. I'm a quiet, shy person. I just felt like, I'm doing everything that I need to do. Everybody should know that, and I'll do what I need to do to contribute. But I never necessarily took that ownership in trying to hold others around me accountable. And that didn't happen until my senior year. Obviously, that was the year that we were faced with being the last class to go through UCLA without winning national championship. So that's probably I took that to pride, and I made sure I stayed that junior summer, the end of my junior year, going into my senior year. I stayed in school, worked out over the summer. I just took it upon myself, because I know when that freshman class came onto campus that their eyes were going to be watching my every move. They want to know how it is to be a Bruin, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to portray that to them. This is what we do as Bruins, and this is what we do here. And I wanted to be able to be that person that led by example, but I also too wanted to hold my other seniors, my other juniors accountable for all their actions, to make sure that we had this goal and we were going to win. Also too, I think it's important to talk about roles too, because playing on the Olympic team, it's one of the hardest teams to play on, because if I turn my neck, there's someone right on my neck that can take my position. And so, it's hard too accepting roles, because someone's got to sit the bench. Someone's not going to be in the lineup. And I think it's one of those things that when it did happen, when those situations did come where lineups were, starting to be more set, people did accept their roles. And I think especially on like an Olympic team, it's almost like an all-star team, everybody can play. And I think it's important that, you have those people that take on those roles of a base runner, who could take on the roles of, making sure the pitcher has what they need. If they're a bullpen catcher, making sure that all pitchers are warmed up. Or if you are the starting pitcher, if you are Elisa Fernandez, that you have your role to take on, is to make sure that you're prepared and you're ready. So I just think that in any championship team, you have to have a leadership, and you have to have players who are ready to accept and embrace their roles. And one of the last things for the team component is I like to talk about your commitment, your trust, and your connectedness. And for any team, you know, if you have a motto or if you, whatever it is, I feel that all members should buy into that goal and that motto. And if you have that one person who just is not buying in, you're not going to get to that next level, and you'd be surprised. You would think that one person can't be a Cancer, but one person can be a Cancer. And I've definitely been on those teams where, you know, one person just didn't buy in and we weren't able to get to that next level. Just being able to trust each individual that completes their own, being able to trust each individual and completing your own individual components. So talking about those 3 components that we talked about earlier, but being able to trust that each athlete is doing their individual things to make sure that that's putting them above the bar. When you're part of a program, everything is connected, and this is something that I learned at UCLA. You know, I thought I was a big dog. I was recruited. My freshman year, I had success right off the bat, so I felt like I was getting it on the field. And I remember my sophomore year, I wasn't getting it done academically. I wasn't getting the grades that I needed to. I wouldn't say getting the grades that I needed, but I wasn't reaching my potential. I came in as a 3.5 student from high school, and now I was just trying to get grades just to stay eligible. I remember we would always chant, you know, C's and D's get degrees. You know, we'd say, oh, we're okay, coach, but coach pulled me in, Coach Anko, she pulled me in, and she just said that, Tasha, you're underachieving. I recruited you as a 3.5 athlete. And the fact that you're now achieving below a 3.0, I was getting like a 2.7, 2.9, which was not my potential. And she said that you're underachieving. And the fact that you're underachieving, that is a test to your commitment to this team. Do you know that everything is connected? The fact that you're not achieving in one area, everything is connected. Everything that we do on the field, off the field, everything is connected. Everybody's buying into this program, this team. And what you bring to this team is being able to reach your potential. And if you're not reaching your potential in every single area, I have to test your commitment to this program. And she just, you know, that meeting probably lasted for about 2 to 3 hours, but she bring me for 3 hours and just talked about I needed a gut check, look at myself in the mirror, and all those things. And as I look back, she's right. Everything is connected, especially when you're a part of a high school program, a collegiate program. Everything that you do on or off the field affects your teammates, affects the program, you're representing your programs. So I think once, you know, as an athlete, as you understand that, you know, whether you're in the weight room, you're in on or off the field communicating with teammates, you're in a training room trying to rehab, get back from an injury, you know, everything is connected and everything is important. So I think that's one thing too that I can stress is making sure that your athletes know that everything is connected, especially in the recruiting process. If you have high school athletes, I mean, that's going to be a difference of a collegiate coach taking a high school girls if she has all the components. You know, she's this great athlete but not having the grades. The college coach doesn't want to have to deal with that, you know. So I think just being able to encompass the whole entire package, it's just going to be easier as you kind of go up the ranks. And just in conclusion, to have a championship culture, you need a blend. So I talked about, I think that everything has to meet on the individual component, on the team component, everything has to come together. It has to be a perfect marriage between your individual goals and your team goals, and I think that's how a team gets to the next level. To be a great winner, I think it's great to be a winner, but at the end of the day, I think it's great to be a champion. Being a winner gets you in the door. Those things that I talked about in the beginning, vision, having a support system, having that passion, that love, making those sacrifices, those are all things that are instilled, makes you a winner, makes you successful, but it gets you in the door. It doesn't necessarily shut the door, but it gets you in the door. So I think when you're coaching your young athletes, just making sure that you're instilling all of these assets in them at a young age, but that gets them in the door, that gets them recruited, that gets them into a college or wherever. But I think that having that championship mindset closes the door. That's at the end of the day, that's when you want to look in the mirror and know that you did the unimaginable, unattainable. So I just encourage you guys to keep on going. I'm kind of probably early, but you can ask questions for a little bit. But just encourage you guys to teach those athletes to have that individual component and the team component, because I really feel as you go up in ranks, it can only help your athletes. Questions?
Looking for a softball bat? Do you want to save $30? SoftballJunk.com is offering an additional $30 discount on all regular price bats on the website. That's right, $30 discount. Just text the word Fastpitch to 555-888 and Gary will send you a discount code good for $30 off your next softball bat at softballjunk.com. FYI, that code's also good at the Arlington, Texas store.
Welcome back. Now that last short clip, that was my daughter Amanda telling you about my website, softballjunk.com. Make sure to text the word Fastpitch to 555-888 and get that discount code for $30 off your next softball bat. And you can use that code at checkout over and over and over and save $30 every time you buy a bat. It's a great deal. You just need to text Fastpitch to 555-888 and I'll text you back the discount code. Now if you enjoy this show, I ask that you at least check out my website, softballjunk.com, the next time you're looking for softball equipment. If I offer a competitive price, well, please buy from me and show your support for all the free content I bring you week after week after week. Now, I hope you enjoyed today's show. Please tell your friends about the Fastpitch TV show and make sure and take a look at my website, fastpitch.tv. Now, until next time, this is Gary Leland saying goodbye and thanks for watching.
This show is a member of the Fastpitch TV network. See all of our shows and blogs at www.fastpitch.tv